Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity. Welcome to another episode of BIM Thoughts, your BIM thinking program / podcast, and now YouTube channel. Today we have Dana DeFilippi and Carl Storms, as myself, Bill DeBevick, as your hosts. We also have the incomparable Carla Edwards, who's back for another exciting edition of BIM Thoughts. Well, hello, Carla.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me.
It's been forever and a day.
I know. I was trying to think the last time I did a podcast with you.
I don't know. It's been a long time.
Probably at least 2 years plus.
Probably. I think you were at the beginning of BIM Thoughts, weren't you?
I was.
What the heck have you been up to these days?
I have gone to work for the Mothership with Autodesk.
With the Autodesk?
Yes.
What do you do with the Autodesks?
I am a BIM support specialist, so I help with questions regarding the cloud. BIM 360.
Oh, you're the BIM 360 expert now.
One of many.
One of many.
Yep.
That's great.
So yeah, BIM 360 desktop connector.
Yes. And synchronizing with the cloud that everyone is starting to get into and using these days.
Exactly. That's been a big push for everybody to work remote.
It has been a big push. And this working remote thing sure has thrown everybody through a loop.
Yeah, I think this has been a good solution.
It has been a good solution, I think.
Yep.
I know we were looking at different solutions before March, and then our world got turned upside down, and now we're looking at BIM 360 for most of our collaboration needs.
Yeah.
And getting off of BIM Server and other things. But
well, while I was still with you at LPA, we had gotten the Texas offices.
Right.
On the BIM 360.
On the BIM 360s, yes.
That was one of my last efforts.
And they're still on the BIM 360. Well, a lot of us are on BIM 360 now.
Yeah. So I think it's working well for people. There's different aspects of it. You know, having been more the admin side, it's been fun to get in and understand some of the different platforms and see how they work.
So now that you're inside the mothership and not outside the mothership where we speculate, now you have access to the real people to ask these sorts of questions. What was your aha moments or like, oh, so that's why they did that kind of moments?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think about that. It is good to get to talk to some of the different developers. We've got one resource that we use Slack to communicate with different teams. And so depending on what the issue is, we have different, Slack channels we can reach out to. But the aha thing, I guess, has been working with Desktop Connector only because we weren't using it when I left. And, so learning that and getting to talk to the developers and understanding, how it works, maybe where it's still a fairly new program, so there's still some bugs to kind of work out, at least with like the AutoCAD products. I don't know that I can't think of an other aha other than just something new to learn.
So what's the desktop connector? I don't know much about it.
Oh, it allows you to access files from File Explorer. And so where before, it makes a great way to host AutoCAD files. So where like Alejandro and I were talking about it and thinking it would be a great resource for linked files, linked CAD files. Not that we would work with them in them, but that just to be able to host them on the cloud so that, if not everybody has access to the network, they still have access to those CAD files.
So is the desktop connector like Autodesk version of Dropbox in a way?
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
But you do see any file that is on BIM 360 from the File Explorer through Desktop Connector.
Oh.
So basically, you get the B showing up in File Explorer.
You get the B. You get the BIM 360 drive.
Yes.
And so you can see all of your project data and all of that other stuff.
Correct.
One of the challenges that we have been having with all of these different drives, OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, Adobe Cloud, you name it, all these different drive options is how do we ensure that the data belongs to the company and not the user? So one of our concerns is if someone decides to leave LPA and goes to work for Autodesk and we delete their account, does all that data go away when it's in the desktop connector? Or
No,
does that data
because
stay
it's part of the project file.
as part of the project file?
Hmm.
Okay. And how is the space determined? Like Dropbox and OneDrive and all that. Like OneDrive gives you a terabyte per user. You can expand that to 5 if you really want to, and then pay for even more.
Right. And this is pretty much like working on it's just through the cloud. You're
Mm-hmm.
basically just accessing it at a local level. I have seen instances where maybe somebody's computer got too full where sometimes they have to clear out files that they're no longer working with.
Mm,
But really, other than that limitation, there's not a limitation as far as because it's basically just looking at BIM 360.
right, right. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then, can you actually see the Revit files there?
Yes. Yes. You don't open
Really?
them through there, but you
You can
can
see,
see them.
are they RVT files?
Yes.
Or are they all, really?
Hmm.
So you could copy it from there and open it in a detached state if you wanted
Yes.
to. So we could, if we wanted to, create one of our Clarity task servers, because we use that, we like
Hmm.
it, and have that on there because it has access to all the projects. And then I could use that to back up what we have in BIM 360.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, there you go.
I wonder how I could do that. I'll have to figure that out. That is something, that's an action item for me to do. Oh, how exciting. How exciting. I'm sure Dana's got questions.
Well, we definitely use BIM 360 quite a bit. I think we've actually migrated to probably at least 95% BIM 360 at this point, especially with
Wow.
working remote.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there are a few things that don't work so great. It like I said, we love it. We have embraced it, the whole cloud computing, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But materials and point clouds, for example, they just doesn't
Oh,
really find a great way for users to path to them without other users having broken paths, right? So things like
Oh.
that don't get synced down. We're having to
Because they're
find
pathing to
workarounds.
their SQL and users, whatever. Is that
Exactly.
why? Yes.
Exactly. And we utilize Enscape and other tools, regularly for
Mm-hmm.
coordination. We have interior designers in house, and seeing materials is pretty crucial throughout the process. So we've had to try to develop some workarounds so that we can get those materials down to local machines before the username on the C
Hmm.
drive, and do some things like that. But it's been an obstacle, and we've definitely, just like the rest of AEC, have kind of been thrown into this remote world and to figure it out, right? And I'm sure Autodesk is the same way, right? We're all just trying to figure it out together.
yeah.
Can you specify the path where it puts the files in the desktop connector? Or does it
No,
just do
I
it
don't believe
for
so.
you?
I should answer Carla.
I was gonna look and see what file formats are supported. It would be what
Oh.
anything that's supported on BIM 360.
But yeah, the desktop connector, Carla, correct me if I'm wrong, it lives in a specific place on your C drive. Like, you can't tell it where to live.
Oh, you can't even
No,
Correct?
say, put
Yeah.
me here
no,
instead, huh?
nope. And yeah, that's correct.
Hmm.
It's a specific location that can't be moved. I have gotten that question. But any file format that BIM 360 supports, obviously a desktop connector can. I
Can
just haven't
connect to
had
it.
much experience. I hadn't tested the materials or had that question come up as about
Hmm.
point clouds or materials.
Yeah, the point clouds and materials. But we have embraced the plans and PDFs and all of the BIM 360 document management that it has to offer. So
Yeah.
we've really gone in there
The plans folder's pretty amazing.
Yes,
how that
absolutely.
function.
And being able to publish everything together, the versioning, all of that, I think is really nice.
Hyperlinks that they creates in the plans folders versus not the plans, the plans folders, not the project folder. Is pretty cool.
And yeah, you can do markups up there, Bill. You can share across the team. It's really nice.
Yeah, and assign those markups or the issues to people. And
wow.
The one that I think is pretty cool is the model coordination. That's pretty as far as being able to do. So basically, you're able to set up models similar to Navisworks, but on a simpler level. And that being able to go in for any user to be able to go in that maybe wouldn't be comfortable going into Navisworks, they can easily go in and review clashes and create issues. I know different people I've talked to like it because it's an easier entry for some of their users that wouldn't be comfortable using Navisworks.
One of the things that I've always wanted it to do, and maybe it'll do it now because I haven't really looked at it in a while, I'll be honest, is on the markups. How you can go in and mark it up inside of the Docs platform. Is there a way to bring those markups back into the Revit sheet so that you can see them there and pick up the markups and then mark the markup as picked up and send it back to Docs so that the PM now knows that you did that? Sort of getting like a round trip workflow?
Right. I don't believe so. I know that there initially when it first came out, there was and I haven't used it in Revit enough to remember if it's still in there. There used to be like a communicator thing that you could open in Revit so that let's say an issue got assigned to you. And I didn't play with it enough to recall if it actually took you to that location or how you knew, if you just saw the visual that was up on BIM 360 and where to go, what view they were looking at or what sheet they were looking at. But it does assign it to you. And it used to be that, and I can't imagine it being taken out, but I just haven't played with it enough to know if that communicator part is still in Revit or if they abandoned it.
It sadly is no longer there.
I wondered. I didn't think it was because it hadn't come up in any questions I had. So
yeah, when it switched from
C4R,
I can't remember the first name. Thank you. When it switched from C4R to BIM 360 Design, and I think the idea was with when everything went to that next generation of BIM 360, everything went cloud. Everything was cloud based. Nothing attached to your computer anymore, and that was part of this. One of the things that went away because the communicator was local. So
okay, and I think that was. I don't even know if it was part of Teams when it changed from C4R to Teams.
Yeah, and that was the other weird thing when they had two platforms that were basically exactly the same, but a little bit different. So they it all kind of merged together. So
it did.
That's one of
kind of a blur.
Yeah, that's one of the things with the next generation. Now they've kind of settled on a core bunch of products and have kind of added together. So that's definitely improves the workflow.
It'll be exciting to see what all new releases are getting during AU this year. Because that'll be coming up. And I know we've got some meetings coming up to kind of get a preview ourselves. So looking forward to those meetings And AU's free to everybody.
AU is free, and it's like just around the corner, isn't it?
Yes.
Mid-November, I believe.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the AU.
Other than approximately when it is, that's about all I know.
That's all you know about AU? Well, I know Carl was doing a bunch of AU stuff.
Are you doing stuff for AU, Carl?
I am doing a session. That is correct. So
nice.
You only have one session?
Just one.
Did you only apply for one or what?
Well, no, I always have to apply for multiple. But I think the idea here is because we were they're doing it global and from all around the world. they sort of spread the love out a little bit, as they should.
Oh.
So there's people from, because it's not just AU Vegas this year, it's AU everywhere.
AU everywhere, that's right.
Yeah. And so it starts on the 17th of November, and it goes for 4 days in North America. And then it starts on the 18th and goes through the 20th in the rest of the world.
Wow.
I actually noticed many topics on BIM 360. Looking through the session, I was actually looking through it earlier today through the session handbook, and yeah, there's a lot of topics on BIM 360 as well as generative design. Those seem to be kind of the hot topics this year.
Yeah. So with the conferences now online, do you find yourself going to them and watching them, or are you sitting back and forgetting about them? What's been going on in your world in conferences?
For me, I will try to watch some. I particularly would like to watch some of the different ones on generative design.
Sure.
And then anything that's new, BIM 360, I need to be up to par on. And some of that I'll get a preview ahead of time. But I'll definitely be, when I'm not handling cases, I'll be trying to see what availability I have to watch sessions.
And Dana, what's been your experience with online conferences lately?
Honestly, I have to say I haven't really been partaking, and it's totally my fault. Because I've been telling myself, well, they're all recorded. I can listen to them later. And I have been, in some cases, been going back and listening to them. But we're really lucky this year with not just the conferences, but with many different versions of, resources. We have Autodesk University. We have, a lot of different ways of learning new content, new things, new BIM features, etc. So yeah, I feel at this point a little immersed in information. Would you agree, Carl?
I would agree, and I think we should also mention the BIM Smith Coffee Club, so we can say thanks for the mug, Benjamin.
Yeah, thanks for the mug, Ben.
Absolutely.
I'm using mine right now.
It's a little late on the East Coast for coffee for me.
Well, you don't have to put coffee in it. It's a holder for any kind of liquid.
That's true.
But yeah, there's definitely a ton of online content out there. I was sitting in an online conference all day today for CanBIM, up here, Canadian BIM Council. Some great panels. I'm finding that as I'm going through and seeing the different sessions, tutorials, you mentioned Autodesk University with their live thing. I'm finding that panels, I'm really enjoying panels because you can get that interaction with the 4 or 5 people on the screen. And because it's not technical, so they're not trying to show slides or run videos, it's just people that are really wise in what they're talking about, sharing their experiences, and it's a little bit easier to digest and less technical difficulties. At least that's been my experience.
So unlike us, they're wise and technical.
Well, I would never say that about any of you. Me, maybe, but the rest of rocket scientists.
I'm finding myself signing up for every conference, but not attending any of them because either I forget, I get busy, or like what Dana said, I'll just watch the video and of the sessions that I'm interested in, and I never shame on me, but I never go back and watch them.
That certainly does happen.
Yeah, I think we're getting overload on all of these online events.
I would agree with that too. It's kind of like my Netflix queue. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but I don't have time to watch it all. I now have a conference queue.
I'm not even that organized to have a conference queue, to be honest with you.
There's your $1 million idea. You just create kind of like Pocket on the internet where you take that article and watch it later. You just take that conference video and watch it later.
We'll make BIMflix.
Market it.
Yeah, we can make dollars. Wow.
No, I agree with Carl. I think the panel conversations are kind of a nice way to almost not remind us that we're stuck in a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
you get that little extra level of communication, not only with the panelists, but, if they're answering questions from the participants or what have you, it feels a little bit more like immersive, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a resolution today for the rest of the year. I'm gonna turn my camera on in all the meetings now, just to see who else turns on their camera.
We do a lot in ours.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, everybody's got cameras, but not everybody uses them.
Yeah.
I always use my camera, even if I'm the only one using the
Yeah.
camera.
Majority of the meetings I do, people have their cameras on, and I don't very often with the clients, but occasionally if they turn theirs on, I turn mine on.
See, I would turn mine on all the time for the client, but with people I know, I don't turn it on. Or if it's a meeting I'm not interested in, but I need to be there, I will not turn the camera on so they won't see me doing other things.
Yeah, I do that when I'm multitasking.
Yeah, but I find when I do, right, when I do turn the camera on, I pay more attention to the meeting.
I like for our team meetings having the camera on just because I've never actually met most of my coworkers face to face. I've
Really?
only worked out of office
Oh,
since
that's right.
starting.
Because you started after March.
I started in May,
Uh-huh.
and I've only met one of my coworkers, so it's really nice
Wow.
to, when we do get on calls, put a face with a voice. And
Yeah. Especially, yeah, because you're outside of Denver, and there's a big Autodesk presence in Denver.
yes,
So when the world returns to normal, you're going to have to report to Denver?
I will be.
Wow.
It'll be interesting to see. I know, I think initially it might be like a couple days a week, but um, we're not really looking to be back in the office until the end of April, so I've got some time to see.
Yeah.
I think they're learning that people are working very well remotely also. But we do have I'm told, a very cool new office space for our team.
Really?
So I'm anxious to see that. We have balconies all the way around, and we
Wow.
are right by the train station.
Right by the train station.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is not far from where I lived when I lived downtown.
You've probably been speaking to a lot of different clients. Do you
Yes.
have anything you could share that you've picked up along the way that you thought, wow, that is really cool? I like the way they do that.
Yes, actually pretty early on, and that's kind of going back to that design collaboration.
Uh-huh.
It's been fun. I tried it when I see those come in the queue. Like today I had one I grabbed to talk to the client because
Uh-huh.
it's interesting, and also there's some dynamics for the larger projects that they kind of have to be strategic in how they set up their model coordination or collaboration folders.
Uh-huh.
Because the larger projects, if they put too much information in the 3D views, it just the model it just is too hard to process.
Mm.
So they'll use scope boxes to kind of compartmentalize the areas, which kind of makes it easier then to review too, to review the clashes.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
guess
been
it would,
interesting to
wouldn't it?
talk to people and see, help them understand, that for the larger projects, we kind of have to do a little trial and error to break them out.
Right.
And whether it's, like area A's in this folder and area B's in the other, but then you still have different scope boxes to kind of break it up. But that's been fun, and it's a cool tool.
On large projects and breaking up, do we still do you guys still break them up like you used to 5, 6 years ago, or are you finding that now the hardware and the software is getting much better, you can have a much larger model than you used to?
I think it's pretty efficient. Personally, I think it's good to still, like if I have a really large project that's easy to make it like a core and shell,
Mm-hmm.
um, I certainly, it may be in the future to do everything in one model, like it's kind of been talked about for quite a while,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's still pretty much the same workflow.
It's the same workflow.
Yeah,
Dana,
unless
what are
something
you finding?
drastically changes.
What are you finding, Dana? Are you breaking your models apart more as much as you used to, or are you breaking them apart less?
I would say it's probably about the same. You know,
Wow.
sometimes for our really large projects, we're seeing core and shells separate from the interior. Sometimes they're integrated. I've been seeing, because Smith Group is multidisciplinary, I've been seeing the M, E, and Ps separating quite a bit. And I shouldn't forget the fire protection and fire alarm models as well.
We do the same thing. We separate our M, our Ps, and our Es. And our structurals and our lighting is even on a different one.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that it's changed because of BIM 360.
Well, I guess the question I'm asking more is breaking up the model not based on discipline or package, but just like breaking it up by floor or east and west, because the computers just don't handle it.
Oh, and with model coordination, when I say break up it's not really breaking up the models, it's breaking up the collaboration file.
Yeah.
And rather than the actual models.
Oh, okay.
Right, and like what amount of clashes you're looking at, or
are
they still calling it issues?
Yes.
I believe it.
Well, there's clashes, and you have clashes that you assign issues to.
Okay. I feel like that's one of the most confusing thing about the BIM 360 is the terminology. If they're not changing it, all of the terms sound so similar, right? Like to understand like publishing versus packaging and, you know, all of those things, it takes a little time.
Yep.
Is there a cheat sheet of what each of these things mean?
Yeah, of course, the Knowledge Center on Autodesk is wonderful. You know, you can always just Google it. Consultants will ask me questions, and usually I send the Autodesk references because they're pretty great.
And so do you use the Let Me Google It For You website?
I try to refrain.
I haven't done that in a long time.
I still have it in my personal thing, but I've not used it for years.
Yeah. If listeners, if you haven't tried Let Me Google That For You, please take a look at that. It is funny.
Very funny.
Carl, I'm sure you have a question or two or three.
No, I have no such thing. None. But with that being said, I guess I fibbed because I do have a couple. So working on the BIM 360 side there, Carla, is that kind of, I know you said that's what you're brought in for, but do you ever sometimes get pulled into other realms or back to like the old school stuff, like working with anything Revit or AutoCAD or anything like that, or is it?
Absolutely. I'll get questions about Revit, as well as I've had to really get my brain wrapped around AutoCAD with respect to how it deals with Desktop Connector. I have not really worked actively in AutoCAD for probably 15 years because I've been Revit. I know AutoCAD well enough to
be dangerous.
To be dangerous and clean it up and get files in to use in Revit. But I'll get questions about Revit occasionally, or there's a strong overlap. You know, as far as like, let's say, sometimes you'll see have you ever seen the ripped icon for a file on BIM 360?
I have not.
I definitely have.
Yeah, and that can attribute to either model health or possibly maybe when, let's say, for whatever reason, a file took longer than normal to publish. Maybe it was just at a time that there was high traffic and it shows up ripped. Usually it has more to do with model health. So just kind of being able to go through and, you know, review the models and then say, you know, you might consider these steps and then republish it to clean up your file.
Yeah. Clean up those errors.
Get those groups out of there.
Get those groups out of there.
Can't have thousands of groups.
The duplicated view-specific CAD backgrounds. Those are some of my faves.
Yeah. Exploded. Duplicated.
Yeah, exploded. The in-place family.
CAD backgrounds.
Yeah. We have all of those.
You have all those too? It seemed like a good idea right when I hit the explode button.
Why would they put it there if it's not a good idea, right?
Right. What do you mean I can't do that just to erase one line in the CAD file? I don't want to have to spend the time to open it in AutoCAD. I don't have time to wait.
But you have time to crash your model and
You have time to wait in Revit. So Dana, I'm sure you have some final thoughts.
Well, I would actually like to ask Carla maybe a final thought. What would you say is a feature of BIM 360 that if we're not utilizing it, then we're not doing it right?
Oh, that is good. I would say I really like the plans folder as far as like if you put a combined PDF into the plans folder, because there's a plans folder and the project folder, it will extract the sheets out individually and produce the hyperlinks. That is pretty cool, I think. That's one I really like.
Well, there you go. Make sure you're utilizing the plan tools.
Exactly. That's kind of the one that jumped out, I think, just because I've been looking at that one a lot lately. And the model coordination.
So how do people get to talk to Carla to have them teach them about 360?
I wouldn't say I get to teach them, but if they have, there are different, depending on their licensing in the world. I honestly struggle to remember who has access to what means of communication, but they do have a source options to do schedule of calls, and a lot of people at any size company are doing the schedule of calls, and each of us usually sign up for 3 to 4 half-hour windows of time during the day to do schedule of calls. There's request a callback, and they've also started live chat for the Americas, or at least our region. It's the different chat ways to get to chat and reach out and create cases has been nice. I enjoy the schedule of calls.
I bet I would too. Well, thank you so much, Carla, for being back on BIM Thoughts. We're going to have you on again after AU when everything is announced and you're allowed to talk about it.
There you go, and I'll try to be up on it as well.
Okay.
At least with BIM 360, I will be. But it'd be fun to learn generative design.
Yes, I think we all want to learn that.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And make sure you have a great BIM Thoughts day.